Let's be honest, we've all done it. You're signing up for something, you see that wall of text, the terms and conditions, and you just scroll right to the bottom and click I agree. But what if that fine print you just ignored could literally cost you your entire livelihood? Well, today we're diving into a wild story where it almost did. And it all started with a bag of cabbage seeds.
I know, it sounds like a joke, right? Can a bag of cabbage seeds actually change the law? But that is the exact question we're going to unpack today. We're going to see how one tiny, everyday purchase spiraled into this massive legal battle that went all the way to the highest court in the land and ended up rewriting the rules for all of us. So let's get into it. All right, so let's set the scene. Our story is about a farmer named George Mitchell. He's running a family farm, and like any farmer, his entire year, his whole business, depends on getting the right supplies at the right time. So he does something completely routine. He places an order with a seed company he's used before, Finney Lock Seeds. Seems simple enough. But something went horribly wrong. The seeds he got were not the seeds he ordered. And the result? Instead of a thriving, profitable crop, George Mitchell was left with 30 acres of nothing. Absolutely useless plants. A complete 100% crop failure. Can you imagine? An entire season of work, of investment, just gone.
So here's the play-by-play. It's 1973. Mitchell places a pretty small order, really. Just over 200 pounds for some late autumn cabbage seeds. But what shows up at his farm is the wrong type, winter cabbage seeds, which were totally wrong for his planting schedule. So the seeds grow, sure, but they never actually produce any heads. The harvest is a complete write-off.
Okay, so this is where a simple, costly mistake turns into a huge legal showdown. Now, you'd think the seed company, having made the error, would step up and cover the farmer's losses, right? Nope. Instead, they pointed to the fine print on the back of the invoice. And the gap between the damage they caused and what they were willing to pay, well, it was just mind-boggling. You see, this wasn't just a minor setback for the farm. It was a financial catastrophe. The total loss, when you factor in all the lost profits from the harvest that never happened, came to more than 61,000 pounds. For a family farm, a hit like that is absolutely devastating. And what was the company's grand offer to make things right? A refund for the original cost of the seeds, 201 pounds and 60 pence. I mean, just look at that difference. 61,000 pounds in damages, and they offer a 200-pound refund. That's where the story goes from being a mistake to a massive injustice. So you have to be asking the same question that was probably screaming in George Mitchell's head. How is that even possible? How can a company cause tens of thousands of pounds in damages, but only be on the hook for a couple $100? Well, the answer was hiding in plain sight, buried in their contract. And there it is, the villain of our story. This little bit of text was the legal shield Finney Lock Seeds thought would protect them. It says, crystal clear, that if they mess up, the only thing they have to do is give you your money back for the seeds. That's it. Total obligation fulfilled. They thought, case closed. But George Mitchell, he was just getting started. So this thing blows up. It goes to court. And it's not really about cabbages anymore. It's about a fundamental question of fairness. The case, George Mitchell versus Finney Lock Seeds, climbed all the way up the legal ladder to the UK's highest court. And the judges there had to decide, can a company really use fine print to just walk away from the consequences of their own failures? To figure this out, the court used a concept that this very case would make famous, the test of reasonableness. It's pretty much what it sounds like. It's not about what the contract says in black and white, but about taking a step back and asking, hang on, in this specific situation, is this clause actually fair? Is it reasonable? The court broke it down with a few common sense questions. First, bargaining power. Was this a deal between equals? No way. It was a giant seed company versus one farmer. Second, insurance. Who could more easily and cheaply get insurance against this kind of disaster? The huge supplier, obviously, not the individual farmer. And then, and this was the real bombshell, the court found that the company didn't even follow its own rule all the time. They had settled bigger claims in the past to keep other customers happy. They were basically picking and choosing when to enforce their own fine print. So the court sided with the farmer. They said the clause was totally unreasonable and threw it out. Finney Lock Seeds had to pay for all 61,000 pounds of damages. But the shock waves from this decision went way, way beyond that one cabbage field. This case fundamentally changed the game. This idea, put forward by a legendary judge named Lord Denning, became the new standard. It was a powerful message to any company writing a contract. You can't just write whatever you want and hide behind it. The courts will now step in and look at the real-world fairness of the situation. And this chart just lays out the massive shift perfectly. Before this case, the legal attitude was pretty much, hey, you signed it, it's your problem. The responsibility was on the little guy to spot the trap. But after the Mitchell case, the whole thing flipped. Now, the burden is on the big company that wrote the unfair clause to prove that it's actually fair and reasonable. It's a total game changer. So the legacy here is just huge. This case gives more power to all of us, whether we're regular consumers or running a small business. It makes sure that our legal system cares more about what's genuinely fair than what some tricky legal loophole might say. And it's still a massively important case in courtrooms to this very day. Which brings us all the way back to that crazy question we started with. And the answer is a clear, definitive yes. A single bag of cabbage seeds, one terrible harvest, and a farmer who refused to be bullied really did change the law for the better, for everyone. And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. The next time you're staring at a contract or a terms of service page ready to just click I agree, maybe just pause for a second. Remember the story of the cabbages. It's a heck of a reminder that fairness matters, and that the fine print you ignore could have bigger consequences than you ever imagined. So what fine print are you agreeing to today?